You aren't being fed, you're being engineered. While the FDA relies on substantial equivalence, the EU uses the precautionary principle. One is a loophole for profit, the other is a shield for biology. A tale of two pantries, the regulatory chasm. You are eating. But who decided what is in your food? Imagine a single loaf of bread sliced down the middle. One half sits on a kitchen counter in Paris, the other in Chicago. The Parisian loaf is made with flour, water, yeast, and salt. The Chicago loaf might contain these same ingredients, but it could also include chemicals that are illegal to use in food across the European Union. This is not an accident. It is the result of two very different regulatory philosophies: safety, risk, and what it means to protect the public. The rules are not the same. They reveal how our food is engineered, who profits from those decisions, and ultimately, who bears the unseen costs. The United States and the European Union use fundamentally different frameworks to evaluate food safety. This divergence creates a regulatory chasm, a gap through which certain chemicals, additives, and processes fall. In one country, a substance is considered a dangerous carcinogen and is promptly banned. In another, that same substance is deemed an acceptable processing aid, a tool to make food cheaper, last longer, or look more appealing. In a globalized system, the plate in front of you is the product of laws and economic pressures, not merely taste. The precautionary principle is a guiding philosophy rooted in foresight and humility. It is an admission that science does not always have immediate, definitive answers. When an activity raises threats to human health or the environment, precautionary measures should be taken, even if cause and effect isn't fully established. In essence, better safe than sorry. Not a barrier to innovation, a demand for responsible innovation. It asks companies to do their homework before introducing a new substance to millions. The responsibility sits on the producer. Instead of asking, is it proven dangerous? The question becomes, is it proven safe? That difference imposes a higher standard of evidence on industry. Europe demands robust, long-term, independent data. It's slower. It's more expensive. By design, authorities scan for red flags, cancer in animals, genetic toxicity, allergens, endocrine disruption. Even if evidence is not conclusive, even at high doses in lab rats, they can act. They can deny approval or set strict limits pending more convincing research. It errs on the side of public health. Hence, Europe bans or restricts additives still common in the US. Certain dyes, chemical dough conditioners, preservatives. The principle is a shield against chemicals whose long-term effects remain uncertain. A deliberate choice. Trade some corporate efficiency for public assurance. Better safe than sorry, institutionalized. Across the Atlantic, a different compass points to market speed. The United States regulatory framework, particularly under the FDA, often employs substantial equivalence. If a new ingredient resembles an already approved one, it's presumed to share its safety, faster, cheaper. The emphasis: detect significant differences in composition, nutrition, or function. No significant differences? Approval can be expedited. It streamlines the process, reduces costs, and accelerates innovation. Critics argue it can be a shortcut past deeper investigation. Subtle biochemical differences, metabolism, interactions, low-dose effects can be missed. Similarity chains create domino approvals, drifting from the original rigorously tested substance. Determinations can be subjective, often reliant on manufacturer-provided data. Industry-funded studies can emphasize similarities and downplay differences. The system can make it hard to say no, shifting burden away from companies. Too often, consumers inherit the doubt. To see the stakes, follow the chemistry, from a baker's helper to a body's foe. Beat. The details matter. Start with potassium bromate. One of the starkest examples is potassium bromate, an odorless, white crystalline powder. A favorite of industrial bakers, a powerful oxidizer that strengthens gluten, improves elasticity and consistency. It tolerates factory variability, traps gas, yields higher rise and finer crumb, and that bright white look. It survives automation and transport. Cheap, effective, enabling lower protein flour to mimic premium dough. In theory, baking heat converts bromate to bromide, harmless, leaving no residue. But conversion isn't perfect. Underbaking, low temperature, or overdosing leaves residual bromate. Labs detect residual bromate in finished bread. A processing aid becomes an ingredient you consume. IARC classifies potassium bromate as Group 2B, possibly carcinogenic to humans. Sufficient animal evidence, tumors in kidneys and thyroid after exposure in drinking water. Mechanism, a potent oxidizer in cells, inducing oxidative stress. Free radicals damage lipids, proteins, and DNA. A specific footprint appears, 8-oxodeoxyguanosine, 8-oxo-DG, a marker of oxidative DNA damage. Biochemical evidence, the molecular smoking gun. If repair fails, mutations propagate. Tumors form. Faced with evidence, regulators acted. EU, UK, Canada, Brazil, China, applying precaution. A technical benefit doesn't outweigh public risk, especially for a cosmetic outcome. In the US, no nationwide ban. The FDA encourages voluntary removal, leaving choices to companies and consumers. Another fault line, color itself. Another point of divergence, synthetic food dyes. Allura Red AC. Red 40, cheap, stable, vividly consistent. Found in thousands of products, candy, sodas, yogurts, even medicines. The concern isn't acute toxicity, it's the long-term subtle effects, especially in children. Enter the blood-brain barrier, the brain's gatekeeper. It admits nutrients, blocks toxins, pathogens, and stray molecules. Research asks whether dyes, or their smaller metabolites, can cross under certain conditions. Once across, they could perturb neurotransmission, the chemistry behind mood, focus, activity. Animal studies at high doses show altered dopamine, serotonin. The Southampton study linked dye mixes plus sodium benzoate to increased hyperactivity in children. Europe responded, warning labels for Red 40 and 5 others, prompting reformulations. Manufacturers pivoted to natural colorants, beet, paprika, and more. In the US, no such warning. Why the persistence? Follow the money. To understand persistence, follow the money. A multi-billion-dollar industry. Synthetic colorants alone exceed $1 billion. Cheaper, more stable, more potent than naturals. Extended shelf life reduces spoilage and waste, saving money. Bromate lets cheaper inputs mimic premium outcomes at scale. Save a cent per unit, sell hundreds of millions. Millions in profit. Those dollars fund marketing, lobbying, and shareholder returns. In a low-margin world, inertia resists costly reformulation. Economic gravity can warp oversight, a phenomenon called regulatory capture. Not just bribery, a slow alignment of interests, perspectives, and personnel. Agencies with limited resources lean on manufacturer studies. An inherent conflict. Well-funded trade groups shape narratives and policy. Their megaphone dwarfs independent voices. The watchdog learns to heal. A key mechanism, the revolving door. Rules today, rewards tomorrow, or vice versa. It tilts culture toward costs and continuity, away from precaution. Advisors may have industry funding, expertise entwined with interests, 2 philosophies, 2 pantries, 2 outcomes. What should be done? Demand independent, publicly funded testing. Long-term, low-dose, and combined effects. Publish all safety data. Impose longer cooling-off periods and stricter ethics rules. Mandatory, visible disclosure of all financial ties. Insulate public health decisions from financial and political pressure. Read labels. Prefer whole foods and simpler ingredient lists. Support companies that reformulate away from risky additives. Tell lawmakers and regulators. Adopt the precautionary principle. When in doubt, protect public health, not quarterly earnings. Our food should nourish us, not engineer us. Beet, Choose safety. Choose caution. The U.S. food supply is illegal in Europe, not by accident, but by design, from Harvest and Hex. Stay safe.